Hello, my name is Ivor Price. I'm the Managing Director of the Food for Mzansi Group, and we are honored to host Africa Media Perspectives. It is one of Africa's grandest gathering for media professionals from across the continent and the world. In fact, this year we have representatives from more than 20 different countries, from the SADC region, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, right up onto Kenya, Nigeria. Speakers coming from the United States, Mexico, Finland. Media is changing. It has changed rapidly over the last year, and it continues to change on a daily basis as people discover all sorts of interesting formats that haven't existed 5 years ago. If you thought you knew something about journalism and media, you probably don't, because it's changing so fast. At this conference, we're touching on some of the most important points, from the sustainability question to the impact of artificial intelligence. 3 years ago, everybody said, "Nah, we don't want to do AI." Today, they're saying, if you're not doing AI, there is no future for you. So it's interesting to see, though, and to document those shifts with our speakers from across the globe.
My name is Sanya Gura, and I'm standing here at AMP 2026. It's my third time. This is an amazing conference for journalists because it's real, it's not boring, and the stuff that is covered is absolutely phenomenal. I've just come off moderating a conversation about rebranding journalism. It's something I feel very passionate about because I think most journalists, they're always looking outward. They don't look inward. They don't really know how to brand themselves. And I know branding among a lot of journalists is a bad word, but in this day and age, in an oversaturated content creation market, you have to brand yourself. And I personally believe we're at an absolute turning point for journalism because journalism brings something very, very unique. One of the pundits was saying it, there's an incisiveness, there's an analysis, there's a training that goes into journalism that AI doesn't have. Journalism school teaches you, but we don't really understand that is our unique selling point. That is our advantage. And I was very heartened by what I was hearing. I think what's happening is we just need the courage as journalists to come together as a collective, which is also not very common among journalists, and actually rebrand journalism. And instead of artificial intelligence, we should look at the value of human intelligence and really punt that as the strength of journalists. I think one of the biggest transitions that journalists have had to make is whereas in the past, journalists would go looking for stories, they would make the judgment, what is the stories, or they would, go into an area that they're most passionate about, social activism, social justice, hold people accountable, truth to power. Whereas in this day and age, because of the algorithms and because of all the pressures, journalists now have to look outward, and they have to look at, okay, I think the audience needs this, but do they really want it? And that was what Dira was actually articulated exceptionally well. She said, it's not just about what we think they need, it's what do they want. And I think that's where the tension is for journalists. That is what's so difficult for us. We are not used to thinking that way, we're not trained that way. But I think once we start actually engaging with that kind of thinking, it's a much richer experience. And I think we can still satisfy that want in a very unique journalistic kind of way. So it doesn't take anything away from us. So as I think Slindile said, we don't have to be scared. We don't have to be scared of anything. I just think we have to position ourselves properly. I think Khadija raised such a beautiful point, and the way she said it was also so pertinent because we were talking about the rise of media influencers. So when we talk about branding journalism, we're not talking about these media influencers branding themselves and becoming these media stars. In fact, Khadija was talking about spectacle, which I thought was exactly the perfect way. That's entertainment. I think journalism at its heart, it wants to entertain, but in a different way. And it wants to entertain through analysis, through insight, through proper storytelling, where you really start to understand whatever you are talking about. Whereas a lot of media influencers, the branding is done for product and for product placement, for money. It doesn't have that journalistic rigor, and it just perpetuates really the AI slop that Khadija was also talking about, and also just this oversaturated content that just becomes fluff and doesn't really mean much at the end of the day. It's just for more doom scrolling. So Khadija made a beautiful point about that and warned us of the danger of that, and that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about branding of journalism.
Greetings everyone, the name is Kwan Dambuza from the rural Eastern Cape, from the rural town of Bizana. Peace to Oliver Tambo, peace to Mamuwini Madikizela Mandela, kulapho basuka khona. And basically I represent the Pondoland Times. We write Pondoland Times in English, which is super exciting because the youth reads, finds content relatable when we deliver it that way. 2, we print 5,000 copies of Pondoland Times, a standard 8-page newspaper. Every week we reach an audience of about 1 million users. That is the number of devices that clicked into our website in the previous year, 2025, which was very interesting that we have over 1 million users getting into our website. As a rural publication, it gave us an idea that there's something that we were doing right. Tell a story. We must sell a story. We must sell a service so that when we talk to these advertisers, to the advertisers and the investors and whoever, if they can relate to the story that you are telling them, then they can invest in you. Instead of, yeah, I did this million, I did that. Our newsletter has got about 12,000 subscribers that we send in newsletter each and every day in the morning. We also have surpassed over 1.1 million views on TikTok in the previous 12 months, which is quite impressive because the TikTok was something I hated. I'm like, who stands in front of a cam? A video is too much work and whatnot. But we found some AI tools that simplified the work around, the workflows and all that to summarize some of our content, do TikTok summaries, and people relate. Most of the time, if we do TikTok videos, we would then start doing them in our language because people relate more in video when you speak their language other than in written form. In written form, you're sitting down, you are more relaxed, you relate most in English, you understand what this thing is about, and we know who the audience is. It's like people who are entrepreneurs, business people, it's students, it's teachers, people who work. All these people can read. The business people around who have inserts in the paper, who like looking for opportunities, and the unemployed who are looking for jobs. All these people know how to read English, so we don't have a problem with that, the language, because I know each and every language has got its person to promote. There's people who promote languages, who promote culture. We also do that by covering our stories, by telling our stories, by profiling Inkosi, the chiefs, the headmen, and whoever, the ward councillors. We go to historic sites.
Hi, I'm Ben Burger. I'm the Executive Director of the Forum of Community Journalists of South Africa, and today I'm here on the second day of the AMP conference in the lovely Western Cape in the town of Paarl. It's a lovely day this morning. AMP 2026 I think is a very important conference in the media space. It brings together media professionals from across Africa and even from Europe to discuss what's trending in the media space at the moment, and I think that's very important. It's important to learn from each other, to get ideas from each other. And I was also on a panel yesterday, on a panel discussion about what's next for community journalism, and I think community journalism will probably outlast many types of other journalism because we connect to our readers at a micro level. We write the stories about the things that people really want to know, that affects them very, very closely. What's happening in their neighborhood, what's happening at their church, what's happening at their school, as opposed to other forms of media that will probably only covers it at the macro level or on a national level. And I think that's very, very important. That's why the discussion yesterday was about community media or community journalism and what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm a firm believer that community journalism will still be around in 10 years. We've been hearing this story for the last 10 years that community journalism, or that journalism is going, or not journalism, print is going to die. I don't think print is going to die. We all print our newspapers. Yes, we have a very strong online component as well, but print is definitely not not dead.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fatia Mohammed Noor. I'm a journalist and a news creator from Nairobi, Kenya. I was a panel speaker for a panel discussing content creators and news creators in Africa in this day and age. And I just shared what I was thinking about, how things have changed in terms of how the audience is consuming news now as compared to before. And as someone who has been in traditional media for a long time and slowly shifting to new media, I've learned that people are consuming news differently now. And so I'm trying to tell stories from a more positive and factual storytelling perspective. And being in the conference here, I've learned so much in terms of how we can put out our content, but also how to monetize and how to completely stay in the line of journalism as we're supposed to. So Kenya is Kenya and Nairobi, pretty cosmopolitan area, and people are consuming more digital content now compared to before. Yes, people are watching news at 9 p.m. for instance, but not as much. Now when a story breaks, people don't go on TV to watch, it's on Twitter, it's on TikTok. And so there's a very, the rise of number of people who are watching content on social media is higher now. And a country like Kenya, people are consuming more from news creators as compared to the traditional media, which is still doing fantastic, by the way. But I think it's just the importance of, the way we tell our stories. We need to own our narratives as Africans, as African journalists, the kind of stories we're telling. And also something I'm passionate about that was also mentioned is solutions journalism. We need to tell stories and also kind of offer real solutions into the problems that we have as a continent.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum, hello to everyone Muslim Views. It's Yusuf Omar here from Scene TV. I've been a foreign correspondent in Syria, Congo, Egypt, Sudan, Ukraine, but I've obviously also worked on the flotilla mission to Gaza, been to Palestine many times. The experience of working in war zones and conflict regions is awful. It's high stress environments. You have very little control over your life. I try not to do it anymore. We now work at training communities on the ground how to tell their own stories, and we have a team of journalists that curate that, fact check it, and produce short form videos, documentaries, and we brought a bunch of those here to Cape Town and toured them across South Africa, and we've seen such incredible audiences here. This is the best country in the world when you look at the passion that they have for the people of Palestine and the amount of advocacy that they do. But we've got to keep going because this genocide's not over, and neither is the occupation. We've got to keep fighting. As Nelson Mandela said, the people of South Africa are not free until the people of Palestine are free. Yeah, historically an activist and a journalist are two separate things. I believe that line is blurring on many subjects. We, take an opinion on climate change, Black Lives Matter, Epstein. I think all journalists can agree that Epstein was an evil bastard, and they do everything they can to shame that kind of criminal activity and behavior. And I think Palestine is another example where you're seeing more and more journalists that are taking a position amidst the genocide and an apartheid system and saying, hey, I'm going to be on the right side of history. I'm still going to tell factually accurate stories, but I'm going to let people know what's right and what's wrong.
My name is Louise Bermsjö and I work for the Swedish Development Cooperation Agency. Well, I think many panels has been very informative and interesting, in particular since it's been such a mix of people, both really seasoned people with lots and lots of experience, and then also newcomers. I think it's been really interesting, and I've learned so much about particularities for the African context, like the challenges of something that I hadn't really thought about before, maybe the so many varieties of languages, but also data consumption and how important it is to have really light and lean apps and content for people to be able to consume, which I find very, very interesting. And then today, just now, I think it was Newsdiggers pointing out that the dependency on donor funding has made maybe some media outlets to be a bit lazy, and the revelation he has had in thinking about how to be a real business from the onset was really enlightening, because I think we, because since I'm representing a donor, I think we can go about it different ways, how to help media businesses grow and thrive under these circumstances, because the whole industry has shifted really. So yeah, it's been really interesting.